I'm Nemo Milan, and in this video we're going to explore Live's clip launch box. So whether it's a MIDI or an audio clip, there's a little launch view in the bottom of the clip view here. If we open it up, this is the launch box. There's various different things we can do to one or more clips to be able to get some expected or unexpected behavior. So I've got a song arrangement. I've just brought in a new drum loop that I want to explore how it can interact with the existing parts I've done. So without the new loop, it sounds like this. And then I've gone for quite a splashy, quite dominating breakbeat. Okay, so the first thing we want to look at is how we can trigger this loop so we can maybe interact with it in a way that will give us some new ideas. So this trigger launch mode button here gives us different behaviors as to how we can interact with the actual clip. So if we're in trigger mode, it's as we would normally expect, where we'd launch a clip and then it just keeps, as long as it's in loop mode, it keeps looping indefinitely. So that's the first mode. Trigger mode, we click it, the command to go is listened to, but any other commands are not heard. So we just launch it. So if we move to the next mode, we have gate mode. It's a momentary mode where if we hold it down, it will stay on. Now I'll move to the actual behavior of how quickly it reacts in a minute, but the actual behavior of it is we have to hold the play button to actually make that clip play. And as soon as we stop doing it, it stops playing back. If we move to the next mode we have, which is our toggle mode. So this is basically, it's either going to be on or it's off every time we hit the button. Okay, so this is quite an easy way to turn it on and off without dealing with the channel mute or anything like that, as long as we want it to start and stop at musical starting points. So the last one is repeat mode. So this will allow us to launch it, but it will also relaunch it when we hold down the play button as well. So if I press it now, you notice that the cursor keeps replaying the first bar. It doesn't play the whole loop. So it's relaunching because I'm holding down the actual launch for the clip all the time. So the reason why it's doing it every bar at the moment is where we're going to move to next, which is this quantization aspect of the clip itself. So it's set to the global quantization, and that is up here, which is set to 1 bar. Now, if we want to change the behavior of the clip, we can go to the global quantization. However, if we do that, it changes the behavior for all aspects of session view, and we're launching either clips or scenes as well. So if you're in a bigger project and you've got lots of musical ideas as rows or scenes within Ableton Live, you generally want that to be rounded when you launch it, so it will launch the next bar or in 2 bars time, not every 1/8 of the bar, and you might completely change the phrasing of the music that you're playing. So what you can do is independently change the launch behavior of that clip itself. So if I go to a quarter note there, now if I hold it down, you can hear that that repeat mode is changing its behavior and working to the quarter note instead. So let's just put that back to 1 bar for now. Now we're going to look at how we can change some aspects of this and a few other examples of some clips, and then how the behavior between those clips can be changed and modified to experiment with some ideas. So I'm going to create an alternate version of this break. I'm going to set it into a different mode than repitch. I'm going to set it into beats mode, and this one's going to be pitched up, let's say 7 semitones. I'm going to make another copy, and this one's going to be set up to 12 semitones. So if I highlight them all, click the first one, hold shift, highlight the rest of them, I can change that quantization to be a little bit faster. So let's go for the quarter note again. And then as I move between these, you'll see that it's moving between different versions of the same loop. Okay, now every time I launch those clips, they're restarting from the beginning. So every command to make a new clip play plays the cursor, or the playhead starts from the beginning of the clip, each new clip that's launched. We can change that behavior and keep the relative timeline continuous. So If anyone DJs, you might know it as a slip mode on a DJ controller, where even if you play and manipulate with loops, the actual playback of the original song is continuing. So when you take your hands off the looping function, it jumps back to where it would have been had you not have intervened. So I'm doing something similar to that, but with audio clips instead. So again, highlight them all so I can change the properties of all the clips and set it to what we call legato mode. So legato is normally when notes are flowing and continuous with no rests in between. This is the clips are going to be continuous. The playback is going to continue as we move between them. So you'll notice it will sound slightly different for this reason, because we're not relaunching the clip for every repitched version now. Okay, so a lot of difference to what we had with that first breakbeat, but I've not gone in there and edited the audio and reprogrammed anything. I'm just playing around with transposition across a few copies of the same clip and changing how I move between them, whether I'm relaunching every time I move between them, or whether that legato function keeps the timeline fluid. So we still have the fills and all those things happening from the drum break as well. Okay, so quantization, we've detached from the global quantization there. Legato we've enabled to get that more fluid kind of behavior between the two. Let's create some more instances of what's available here, and let's see what else we can do with it when we get to the follow action. So I'm going to take it out of legato mode. So let's highlight all of those and do that. When we have this kind of half angled grey and yellow, it means that some of them are set to on, some of them are set to off. So it's quite easy when you highlight multiple clips to know what the state is of all clips. If they're uniform, you'll see them all either greyed or yellowed. If they share differences, like the transposition here, you can see there's actually multiple hands showing that, hang on, these clips all have different information for the transposition settings. So when you highlight a few of them, that's a good way to know if everything's uniform or not. So by reinstating legato on and off, I've now forced them all to go out of legato mode. So I'm going to create a few more of those instances. I'll just move those ones to the top, to the space there. And then let's change aspects like change the time, the tempo. Let's change the warp mode so we get a different texture out of some of these as well. Maybe loop a few of them so they loop in different spots. So they're all still set to that 4 quantization there. So we can increase that resolution and maybe put it into 8ths. So we'll do another one that copies from there, and we'll make that one loop around another part. That's one of my earlier ones, actually. Let's leave that one as it is. A new one is here. Let's just give it a different type of loop. Okay, so there's lots of different variations there happening. I'm manually trying to figure out something from this. I'm manually trying to figure out what I do and don't like about the relationship of these different clips until I find something that I like. But I can actually set this so it can start doing this itself. It's this section called follow actions. So the first point is the time it takes for the action to be applied. So at the moment it's a bar, and then it will follow with a new action at that point. So in a bar's time, I can choose that I want it to play the next clip down, or I can make it choose any clip. It can be randomized, or it can start from the beginning, or it can restart the clip after a bar. We can set it to do lots of different behaviors. Now, if I set them all to be any, so let's do shift and click again, and we set that one to any here. Now when we press play, it will move on every bar based on the follow action, and then it will move to any other clip. So let's see what it does. Okay, now the probability of that happening is every time, because we have an A and a B probability slot here. So the follow action for follow action A is that it will go to any other clip, and the likelihood of that happening is 1 out of 0 chances of the other command happening. So the whole idea here is I know it will choose a random choice every time, but I can maybe set it so there's also a chance that it will do something different. So let's say that that first break is the solid one that's going to be the more musical one, and every now and then we want that reconfirming and playing. So I'm going to set this now to first. So if we set all of these clips to this, let's say we'll set it to 10, just type in 10 there. Out of every 10 or so launches of these clips, it will launch the first clip, but more likely it will launch any other clip. So we're going through a randomization, but we're starting to dictate the behaviors between two choices, and like a roll of the dice, we're choosing what the likelihood is of one action, action A, versus action B. So let's start this off on the first clip. Okay, so like any of these experimental things, I slightly modified the behavior and actually chose it to play the previous loop on a less frequent occasion than its more likely thing of choosing any clip as it runs. So there's only one part of the launch box that we haven't discovered yet, and this is the velocity aspect of the clip playback. So let's simplify what we've got just so we can go through this as the last feature in the launch box. So we load this loop in here. Now, at the moment, I'm launching it via key commands, but we can assign it to a key pad on the MIDI controller. So I'm going to go quickly into what we call MIDI map mode, and I'm going to set a button, or sorry, a key. So it could be a keyboard on a MIDI controller. This time it's a drum pad on the push unit, but I'm just going to assign that. Now that's set up so it'll do the same as I was doing with the mouse. It's letting me launch the clip. And what I'm wanting to do now is be able to control exactly how loud it is when I launch it. So I'm just going to get rid of these follow actions for a minute. So it's just as if I just dragged it in as a fresh loop. Now if I launch it, I can change the volume of it as it plays. So the harder I hit it, the louder it gets as a loop. And the quieter I hit it, the quieter it gets as a loop. So depending on the pad you're using or the keyboard you're using, the response will be different from what's going on, but there's a change in volume and it allows you to just get a bit more of a more performed, natural feeling from your clips. So we've looked at the launch box, looked at different ways we could change the behavior of launching the clips themselves, when those clips will be launched, whether it's global quantization or whether it's set to its own independent state, how we can look at the velocity aspects of the volume as well, and then how the follow actions can change the behavior of how one clip starts and then how it might move into another clip as well.